Sam, and welcome to my Southern Rustic Kitchen. This is where I make tasty meals for those I love. This week I'm whipping up some tasty Greek-style food, so come join me in the kitchen and let's make some delicious meals. Okay guys, we are kicking this week off with a delicious Greek style beef stew. I'm going to make some garlic mashed potatoes with feta on top to go along with this. This is just absolutely delicious. It's called a STIFADO and you're going to love it. So what I've got going on here is I've got some beef stew meat. This is just a roast that I cut into 1 by 1 inch pieces, cubes. I've got 2 onions here that I quartered. I've got some red wine. If you don't want to do red wine, just sub it out with beef broth. I've got 2 tablespoons of tomato paste, cinnamon sticks, allspice, cloves, some bay leaves, beef broth, and some olive oil. So I'm going to get you guys set up and we will get this started. Okay, so I've got a Dutch oven pot here. And I've got it over medium-low heat because cast iron holds its heat really well. I'm going to add just a little bit of olive oil to the bottom of my pan. And I'm going to sear the beef in batches until it's nice and golden brown. And then I'm going to remove it to a plate while I finish up the rest. So you just want to sear it. And as soon as it gets nice and golden, you'll take it out and put it on a plate and then continue on with the batches. So I'm going to go ahead and do that and then I'll meet you right back here. Okay, so all of the meat has browned on both sides and I just added it all back to the pot. I'm going to go ahead and add in my wine. And I'm going to scrape up the little bits that's stuck on the bottom of the pan. And I'm going to let this wine cook down for about 4 to 5 minutes. Okay, so the wine has evaporated, all of the alcohol has cooked off. Now I'm just going to add in my tomato paste, and I'm going to let this cook for about another 1 to 2 minutes. Okay, so now that the tomato paste has cooked in, I'm going to go ahead and add in my onions. And I'm going to give that a little mix, just incorporate them. Okay, now I'm going to add in my beef broth. Now you want to add enough of the water or beef broth until it covers the meat. Now we're just going to give this a stir. We're going to add in our spices. So I'm going to go ahead and add in my bay leaf, a cinnamon stick, a half of a teaspoon of allspice. It's going to add such wonderful flavor. Now we're going to add in our cloves. Now you want to add in about 10 or 12 little sprigs of clove. And now I'm just going to mix this up, add some salt and pepper, and this should be ready to go. We're going to let this cook low and slow for about 2 hours covered. Add a little bit of salt. We can always add more later. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this up to a boil, then I'm going to reduce the heat, cover it with a lid, and I'm going to let this cook for about 2 hours. Now you want to keep an eye on the liquid level. If it gets too low, add some more water or broth. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then I will meet you back here when it's all done. Okay, so this has been cooking for about 2 hours. You can cook it in less time if you want the beef to be a little bit less tender, or however much time you have. Now I've gone ahead and fished out the bay leaves and the cinnamon sticks. Now be mindful that there are still cloves in here, so be careful. I've gone ahead and mixed up about a tablespoon of flour and a little bit of water in my little bowl here. I'm going to add this to the beef stew mix here, and I'm going to let it cook for about 5 minutes just to thicken up. You don't have to do this, but I want the broth to be a little bit more thick. So I'm going to let this cook for about 5 minutes just to thicken, and then we will make our plate. Alright, here is my plate. I've got the garlic mashed potatoes here with the feta cheese. It's absolutely delicious. And I've got my beef stew. These were so good. I will leave the link to the recipes, all of the recipes, down below in the description box below, so you can go check those out. So yeah, this is what we had for dinner tonight. For dinner tonight, I'm making souvlaki with tzatziki sauce. I'm also going to be making a lemon rice to go with it on the side. I will link all of these recipes in the description box below, so you can go check those out. So what I've got going on is, for the souvlaki, I've got 2 chicken breasts that I've just got diced up into 1.5 inch cubes. If you have a bigger family, you can use more chicken. I've got some salt and pepper, olive oil, white wine. You're going to need some lemon juice. I've got some garlic. For spices and herbs, I've got rosemary, oregano, a bay leaf, and some paprika. For the tzatziki sauce, I've got some Greek yogurt. Now, if you can't find Greek yogurt, just buy some plain yogurt, put it in a cheesecloth in a strainer over a bowl, and just kind of let it hang out overnight in the refrigerator, and you'll have nice Greek thick yogurt in the morning. I've also got a cucumber here that I've got in a strainer. I just seasoned it with a little bit of salt to help draw out some of that moisture. And I've got a little bit that has come out, but we're going to squeeze the rest of that out in just a minute. I've got some olive oil, white pepper. If you can't find white pepper, black pepper will do just fine. I've got some garlic and a little bit of vinegar. I've also got my skewers and my cheesecloth. So I'm going to get you guys set up and we will get this started. Okay, so I've got my chicken here, and we're just going to add all of the ingredients in here. We're going to let this marinate. So I'm going to start off with some olive oil. You're going to need about 1/4 cup. You're going to need about 1/4 cup of white wine. You're going to need some lemon juice. You're going to need about juice of a whole lemon. Now, if you want extra lemon flavor, you can also zest the lemon before you squeeze it in there. It'll give it more of a lemon flavor. We're going to keep it a little bit lighter on the lemon flavor today. I'm going to add some salt and some pepper. We're going to add in our garlic and our spices and our bay leaf. So we're just going to mix this all up until it's nice and combined, and then we're going to cover this with plastic wrap, and we're going to pop this in the refrigerator, and you're going to let this kind of hang out for about an hour or so, or until about 30 minutes before you're ready to serve it, or not serve it, but cook it. And then we will skewer them and get these on the stove. Get these grilling up. Okay, moving on to the tzatziki sauce. Now I want to go ahead and do this while the chicken is marinating, so that way it has time to develop its flavor. So what I did is I just took the cucumber, put it in my cheesecloth, and squeezed out all of the juice that I could possibly get out of it, and then I just added it to my yogurt. So now we're going to add a little bit of olive oil, not too much, probably about a tablespoon. Now we're going to add in our garlic, our vinegar, some white pepper. Like I said, if you don't have white pepper or can't find it, use just regular black pepper. And you're going to need a little bit of salt, probably about a teaspoon. You can adjust the seasoning after you get everything mixed up. Make sure it's right to how you like it. And then we're just going to mix this up until it's well combined. And we're going to cover this with plastic wrap, and we're going to pop this in the refrigerator to chill for about an hour or so. And then this will be good to go for dinner. Okay, so I've got my grill pan coming up to heat. I just added a little bit of oil, and I'm just adding my souvlaki to the pan, and I'm going to let these cook on both sides until they are nice and golden brown, and then I'm going to remove them to a plate, and then we should be ready to go for dinner. Okay, so I've got the last one coming off. I'm going to cut the heat off, and I'm going to plate up my rice. I'm going to grab my tzatziki, and I'll make my plate. Alright guys, so here is my plate. I've got the souvlaki here, some lemon rice, and some tzatziki for dipping. This smells absolutely incredible, and I cannot wait to dig in. Alright, for dinner tonight, I'm making moussaka. This is kind of like a Greek style casserole. It's a meat layer topped with a creamy bechamel sauce. I've got some bread rising that I'm going to make with it, and then I'm going to also make a light little salad to go with it as well. So for the meat mixture, this is what I've got going on. I've got some tomatoes. I've got diced tomatoes in juice. I've got an onion, meat, tomato paste, garlic. For seasoning, I've got sugar, clove, cinnamon, and thyme. I've also got some basil and parsley. You're going to need some salt and pepper and olive oil. For the bechamel sauce, you're going to need some milk, flour, Parmesan cheese, a little bit of nutmeg, egg yolks, and some butter. So I'm going to go ahead and get you guys set up, and we will get this started. Okay, so I went ahead and added a little bit of olive oil to my pan here. This is a oven safe brazier pot. I've got my oven preheated to 350 degrees, and I've just been cooking these onions in a little bit of salt and pepper for about 3 or 4 minutes. Now I'm going to add in my garlic. Give that a little mix. And my spices. I've got my thyme, cinnamon, and sugar in here, as well as my cloves. So I'm going to get that in there and give that a little mix, just to toast it up, bring out those flavors. Now that those spices are all nice and fragrant, I'm going to go ahead and add in my tomato paste and get that all mixed in. Now I'm going to add in the rest of my seasoning, my basil and my parsley, and I'm going to let this cook for about a minute or two. Okay, and now I'm going to add in my beef and kind of break this up with my spoon. And I'm just going to let this cook until the beef is completely cooked through. It should take about 8 to 10 minutes. Okay, so the meat is cooked through. I'm going to go ahead and add in my tomatoes and do this little mix, and I'm going to cut my heat down on low, and I'm going to move it to the back burner and keep it on low while it thickens up, and we will make our bechamel sauce. Okay, in my saucepan here, I just added my butter and I allowed it to melt completely. I'm going to go ahead and add in my flour, and I'm going to mix this up until it makes a roux. And I'm going to let it cook for about a minute or two, just to cook out that raw flour taste. I'm going to add just a tiny bit of salt and some pepper. Now I'm going to slowly add in my milk, a little bit at a time, just to keep it from clumping up. And as it thickens, I'll add a little bit more. Okay, so this has thickened quite nicely, so I'm going to go ahead and add in a little bit of nutmeg. I also seasoned it a little bit more with some salt and pepper. Now I'm going to add in a little bit of my Parmesan cheese at a time until it's fully incorporated and melted. Alright, that is nice and combined and thick and creamy. I am going to get a little ladle here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to ladle in some of this mixture into my egg yolks while I'm whisking, just to temper the eggs. Okay, that is nice and thick. I'm going to pull this off, and I'm going to bring my pot of my meat mixture back up here and kind of spread it evenly. Now, if you don't have a oven safe pan, you can do all of this separately and then just add it to a 9 by 13 inch baking dish and then bake it. So now I'm going to pour this all over the top. Okay, and then I'm just going to kind of level this off on the top, and we're going to put this in a 350-degree oven for about 35 to 40 minutes, just until the top is nice and golden brown. Alright, this just come out of the oven. It's nice and golden brown and it smells absolutely delicious. I went ahead and cut up some of the fresh baked bread, and I made a salad, so let's go ahead and make our plate. Alright, here is my plate. I have the moussaka here with a little bit of side salad. I just topped it with olive oil, salt, pepper, and a balsamic fig glaze. It was absolutely delicious. And I've also got some fresh baked bread. You guys, this right here was so warming and filling. I absolutely loved it. So this is what we had for dinner tonight. For dinner tonight, I'm going to be making lemon chicken with potatoes. I've got some salad from yesterday that I'm going to serve on the side. So what I've got here is I've got some potatoes. You're going to need about 4 to 5 large potatoes, and just cut them into wedges. You're going to need salt and pepper, lemon juice, some olive oil, garlic, some oregano, white wine vinegar, some peppercorns, and some chicken of whatever preference you like. I've got some boneless, skinless chicken thighs here, but you can use bone in, skin on, legs, breast, thighs, whatever you like or prefer. So I'm going to get you guys set up and we'll get this started. Okay, so what we're going to do first is we're going to just go ahead and place all of the chicken in a sheet tray or a baking dish. I've got a 9 by 13 here, and you're just going to arrange all of the potatoes in the pan as best as you can. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this up, and then we will move on to the next step. Okay, so I've got the potatoes in there, and now I'm just going to add enough water to come halfway up the chicken. I'm just going to add this right in there. That should be good. About 1 to 2 cups of water should be just plenty. Okay, and now we're going to drizzle over the lemon juice. Add a little bit of olive oil. This is just going to help the potatoes kind of crisp up in the oven later. We're going to add our white wine vinegar, our peppercorns. Going to add in the oregano, right over the top. This smells delicious already. And we're going to sprinkle on our garlic as best as you can. Okay, so I'm just going to add a little bit of salt and pepper to the top of the potatoes. Okay, now we're just going to cover this up with some aluminum foil. We're going to put this in a 350-degree oven. We're going to cook it covered for about an hour to an hour and 15 minutes. Alright, foil's on. Let's get these in the oven. After 50 minutes of bake time, you're going to remove the foil and you're going to let it cook for another 20 to 25 minutes, just until the water is slightly evaporated and the tops of the chicken and potatoes are nice and golden brown. Alright guys, here is what it looks like right when it comes out of the oven. I'm going to let this sit for about 5 minutes or so, just to let it cool off a little bit, and then I will make my plate. Here is my plate. I have the lemon chicken here as well as the potatoes and just a simple side salad. I dressed it with olive oil, salt, pepper, and a little bit of balsamic glaze. This was absolutely delicious, and this is what we had for dinner tonight. Alright guys, we are wrapping this week up with a pasticcio. Now I know I'm probably butchering that and I am so sorry. But I've got a pot of water coming up to a boil on the stove. I'm going to get that salted in just a few minutes. I've got my oven preheated to 350 degrees. I've got a baking dish, grease ready to go, setting to the side. Now this is a 3-part process. It's kind of like a layered lasagna type thing. It's like a Greek style lasagna. It's absolutely delicious. For the first part, you're going to need some ziti. I've got about a pound of ziti here. I've got 2 egg whites, a half a block of whole feta cheese. For the meat portion, we are going to be making, I've got some ground beef, some onions that I've just got diced up, tomato paste, I've got a cinnamon stick, I've got some clove and a bay leaf, beef broth, or you can do wine, red wine. I've got some sugar, garlic, diced tomatoes with the juice, some olive oil, and salt and pepper. And that's all for that meat portion. For the bechamel that is going to go on top, I've got some milk, flour, butter, an egg yolk, some Parmesan cheese. You're going to need some extra Parmesan cheese to sprinkle over the top before it goes in the oven, but I've got that set to the side, and you're going to need a little pinch of nutmeg. So I'm going to get you guys set up and we'll get this started. Okay, so I've got my pan on medium-low heat and my pasta water is boiling. I've already got it salted, so I'm going to go ahead and add my pasta. Now you want to cook your pasta about 7 minutes until it's just almost cooked, but it still has a bite, a little bit shy of al dente, because it's going to continue cooking in the oven. So just added that in there, and I'm going to let it sit there and cook for about 7 minutes. In the meantime, we're going to go ahead and do the meat portion. Okay, so I'm going to add about 1/4 cup of olive oil to my pan here. It seems like a lot, but it's going to add so much delicious flavor. Got that in there. I'm going to go ahead and add in my onions, and I'm going to cook these just a few minutes until they're softened. Get a spoon here. I'm going to add just a little bit of salt and pepper. Because we'll season this again later. So I'm going to let these onions cook up until they get soft, and then we will move on to the next step. Okay, so I'm just turning my heat down just a little bit because I don't want the onions to get brown. I just want them to be soft. So now I'm going to go ahead and add in my tomato paste and get this all nice and combined. kind of smush that down and let it get combined with the onions. Alright, now I'm just going to go ahead and add in my garlic, and I'm going to let this cook for about 30 seconds or so, just until that garlic is fragrant. And you want to toast the tomato paste and the garlic because it's going to add a nice depth of flavor to it. It's going to be really good. I can smell that garlic already. So I'm going to go ahead and add in my ground beef and break it up with my spoon. And I'm going to let this cook until it's completely cooked through. And then we will move on to the next step. Alright, so the meat is completely cooked through. I'm going to go ahead and add in my beef broth. Now you can use wine if you want to, about 2/3 of a cup of red wine if you prefer that deeper flavor. But today I'm going to use beef broth. Now I'm just going to let this cook until it's evaporated and reduced down by half. While my sauce is reducing here a little bit, we're going to go ahead and mix up our pasta and get that in our casserole dish. So what I'm going to do is, got my feta here, I'm going to go ahead and add in my egg whites and stir this until it's nice and combined. Just stir it slowly so you don't scramble the eggs. Add a little bit at a time. And we're just going to crumble in our feta right into all this pasta. Now you can do already crumbled feta, that's fine. I just got the whole block here, so we're just going to crumble that in, mix this up, and get this into our casserole dish. Alright, so I've got this all mixed up. Now you can layer this if you want to, that's what I'm going to do. If not, just add the whole thing of pasta in here and then we can top it with our meat mixture later. So I'm going to add half of the pasta to the pan and kind of spread it out. And we will finish up our meat sauce and layer that in as well. Okay, back to the sauce. This has reduced by half. I'm going to go ahead and add in my diced tomatoes. We're going to add in our cinnamon stick, our bay leaf, and our clove, as well as our sugar. And that sugar is just going to help take out some of that acidity of the tomatoes. And it's going to kind of make everything meld together a little bit better. So we're going to add a little bit more salt and a little bit more pepper. We're going to let this simmer for about 20 to 25 minutes, just until all those flavors get nice and incorporated in there. Okay, so I'm going to set this on the back burner. In the meantime, I'm going to work on my bechamel sauce. Okay, I've got my pan here on medium-low heat. I'm going to go ahead and add in all of my butter into my saucepan, and I'm going to get this melting before we add in our flour. Okay, all of my butter has melted. I'm going to go ahead and add in my flour and give that a little mix. We're going to make a roux. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and add in a little bit of salt and pepper, so that way we don't have to add too much more later. And this is going to cook for about a minute or so, just to cook out that raw flour taste. And then we will add in our milk very, very slowly. Okay. Add in a little bit of the milk and whisk until it's nice and thick. When it's thick, add a little bit more until all of your milk is in the sauce. Okay, while the milk is not quite that hot, I'm going to go ahead and add in my egg yolk, kind of, and stir, and stir, 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 until it's all nice and combined. So that way you don't curdle your egg. And this is going to get nice and thick. I'm going to go ahead and add in just a pinch of nutmeg, just to bring out that flavor, not too much. Now we're going to whisk in our Parmesan cheese, and it's going to get even thicker. Here we go, add a little bit. Get that all nice and mixed in, and then once this is thickened up and the cheese is melted, we can set this to the side while the sauce finishes up, and then we will get all of this layered in our casserole dish and in the oven. Sorry guys, my camera died. So what I did was I took half of the noodles, layered it on the bottom of the greased baking dish. I discarded the cinnamon and the bay leaf from the meat mixture, and I just poured that meat mixture over the top of the first layer of noodles. And then I added the second layer of noodles and kind of spread it out evenly, and then I topped it with that bechamel sauce and a little bit more Parmesan cheese. And that's all I did. This is ready to go in the oven. We're going to bake this at 350 degrees for about 40 to 45 minutes, or until the top is nice and golden brown. So I'm going to get this in the oven, and then I will show you what it looks like when it's done. Here is my plate. I completely forgot to take a video of when it come out of the oven, but here's my plate. I've got the pasticcio here along with a side salad. I just mixed up a little bit of the tzatziki sauce with some olive oil and a little bit of water and kind of made a dressing out of it. And that's what I had on my salad. But this was absolutely delicious. This is what we had for dinner tonight. Alright guys, here is this coming week's meal plan, and now this is subject to change because this is just a rough estimate of maybe what we're going to have this week. But on Monday we're going to have spaghetti with garlic bread, Tuesday is fried chicken, mashed potatoes, green beans, Wednesday is goulash, and I've been wanting some chicken and dumplings, so we're probably going to have that on Thursday. Friday we're going to have breakfast for dinner. Now I'm going to be doing some like little shorts, I guess you could say, for this coming week because I'm going to take a week off. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video and stay tuned for my shorts, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye guys.